Hello students, this is Miss Dalton and today's video is on using averages, weighted averages, and indices. Go ahead and take a second and write down these definitions. The definition of a median is the middle value of the sorted data or the mean of the two middle values. So what you can remember from this right here is that it's going to be the middle. Or if there are two values in the middle, then it's going to be the mean of the two middle values, which mean means average. Okay, mid-range is the mean of the maximum and the minimum. So again, you're going to take the maximum and the minimum value and then you will average them. The range is the difference between the highest and the lowest. The mean, another word for mean is average, and that is where you take the sum of the data and then you divide it by the number of values. So if you have 5 pieces of data, you will add up those 5 pieces of data and then divide by 5. Mode is the number in the set of data that has the highest frequency. So a lot of times when we think of mode, we think of most. It's going to be the number that occurs the most. These are all definitions that you've learned before this point, but it always helps getting them written down again just so that you can refer back to them as needed. Okay, so we're going to look at averages, and we're going to look at when you have weighted average and then without weighted average, which is just a plain average. In NISD, we use a weighted average. Our formative grades are 40% of your grade and your summative grades are 60%. So you knew that, but maybe you didn't really understand how the computer calculates your average. If we did not have weighted averages, if we were without weighted averages, what we would do is we would just take all of these values and we would just add them up and then we would divide by the total. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 grades. So we would take all those 8 grades, we would add them up, and then we would divide by 8. So without the weighted average, this is what we would have. Again, we would add all those values up, we would divide by 8. Since there are 8 values, it would come out to be 95.25, which would round to a 95% in the gradebook. Now let's look and see what would happen if we use our weighted average policy, which is that our formative grades are 40% of our grade. So let's take our formative grades. So our formative grades are the 96, the 100, the 99, 93, and 100. So what we would do is we would add those up. We would divide by the total number, so there's 5 of them. And then what we would have to do is we would take that average, so here's the average that we just got, when we added those up and then divided by 5. We would take that average and we would get 40% of that average. Well, 40% as a decimal is just that 0.4. So we would take 40% of that average, so 0.4 times all of that. Then we would take our summative grades, and those are going to get averaged in at 60%. So our summative grade is a 96, an 85, and a 93. So then what we would do is we would then take that 60% of the summative grades. So our summative grades were the 96 plus 85 plus 93. We're going to add those up and divide by 3 since there's 3 grades, and we would take that average and we would want to do the 60%. So 60% is going to convert to the decimal 0.6. Then once we get those two grades, then we would add those up. Okay, so that would come out to be 93.84%, which would round to 94%. Again, test that on your calculator. Make sure that you can get that answer on your calculator. You can do each piece separately, but if you write it down all together like this, you should be able to type that whole thing into your calculator as long as you use the parentheses and as long as you use the fraction, the alpha y equals to insert it as a fraction. Okay, so you're going to take this problem that is found on page 47 in your textbook, and I want you to work through it on your own. You're going to pause the video and work through it on your own, and then you can hit play when you're ready to check your answers. The scenario is this. We have Mr. Alejandro and Miss Bonak-Tarski. They teach advanced quantitative reasoning. When grading, Mr. A uses System A, which is over here, and Mr. or Mrs. B uses System B, which is right here. You're going to answer the questions for A, B, C, D, and E. On Part A, your grades for Unit 1 numerical reasoning are as follows. Class participation, you get a 90. Homework, you get an 82. Quiz average, 73. Unit test, 85. Unit project, 95. Which teacher's grading system do you prefer? So on this one, you're going to find out what your average would be based on each system, and then figure out which one would be the higher average. Again, they've got the averages already there for you, so the class participation grade is a 90, and that's in System A, it's at 10%, whereas in System B, it's 15%. So I would get your average using System A altogether, and then find out your average for System B, and then compare. For Part B, if your quiz average were 20 points higher, so in the previous problem, the quiz average was a 73. So if it's 20 points higher, then now that's going to be a 93. How much would your unit average improve in each system? So then take those same data, those same grades, and figure out your grade in each system, and figure out which one would be higher now. Part C, keeping the other grades the same. What quiz average would yield the same overall unit average in both grading system, and what is the common unit average? So this will take some trial and error. Part D, suppose your grades are class participation 80, homework 85, quiz grade 70, 78, 83. Under each system, which system would you need on your unit test and unit project to obtain an average of 90 or above? So try that out, see if it's even possible. And then Part E, you can work through that. So again, press pause, try these out on your own, and then when you're ready to check your answers, go ahead and press play again. Okay, the answers for Part A, B, C, and D are in this yellow box right here. So check your answer, make sure that you've got those answers correct. For Part E, there's actually tons of different options, and so they've listed them over here. Again, what I want you to take away from this section is just, can you find the weighted average of a grade, and then also can you find a missing grade that would reach a certain average. Okay, so here's an example of a grading system, and you have some of your grades already entered, but then you're going to try and figure out what you need to make in order to get a 90% for this unit. So your school uses grading system A, so here's grading system A, the percentage values. You want to make a 90% for this unit. What do you need to make on the unit project if these are your other grades? So you have your class participation grade, you have your homework grade, you have your quiz average, you have your unit test. We just are missing that unit project that's going to be at 25%. And so we've got to figure out what do we need to make on that unit project in order to make that grade of a 90%. So here's how we would set it up. So first of all, we would set up everything, including our unknown. So our 98 participation grade is going to go in at 10%. So 10% is 0.1. We made a 92 on our homework average, and that's a 20%, so that'd be 0.2. The quiz average was 88, which is 30% of our grade, so that's 0.3. Then we have a 90 on our unit test, which goes in as 15%, so that would be 0.15. We don't know what we're making on our unit project, so that is our unknown, and so we're going to put that in for as X, but we do know it's going to be 25% of our grade, so we're going to multiply that by 0.25. All of that together, we want it to give us that outcome of a 90 grade point average. Okay, so what you're going to do from here is you want to go ahead and calculate what you can. So what we can calculate is this part right here. We can go ahead and multiply all of that out, and so when we do, we get 68.1. So all of this came out to be 68.1. So we're going to go ahead and insert that. And then we've got plus 0.25x equals 90. At this point, we're just solving an equation. So you would subtract that 68.1 from both sides. You'd get 0.25x equals 21.9. And then you would divide both sides by 0.25. So it looks like we need to make an 87.6 or preferably maybe an 88 on our unit project in order to get that average of a 90. All right, so here's a problem for you to work on your own just for some extra practice. We have system A and we have system B, and you're going to determine your grade for each system if you made class participation of an 85, homework 73, quiz average 81, unit test 94, and unit project 91. So go ahead and do that on your own, see what you get, and when you're ready to check your answer, go ahead and press play. Okay, this is what you should have gotten for System A. System A would have given you a grade of an 84. System B would give you a grade of an 86. So hopefully you got those correct. So come to class tomorrow ready to work on some practice problems.